Good morning, Emmanuel. I'm very happy to be here and to speak today about workplace management and workplace occupancy. I'm Emmanuel Francois, sales manager for West Europe within EnOcean GmbH. So we are moving to a hyper-connected world where every citizen, every building, every mobility, every territory, every equipment and infrastructure will be connected in real time. This is a key evolution which never exists in the history of humanity, enabling, for instance, sharing, mobility, spaces, equipment in real time. The consequence of it is to be able to optimize and save resources and give more people access to more services and activities. For this, IoT is a must. Next. It's a must because it enables to connect every equipment in real time. Can you switch to the next? Yes. Every equipment in real time with interaction in real time to all the equipment. This in peer-to-peer, in edge and cloud with application. For this, the prerequisite is flexibility. Wireless exactly the must. It also sustainable. It needs to be sustainable, and for this, battery-free is a must. It needs to be scalable, and you need to have then open standard and interoperable solution and protocols. It needs also to be plug and play, and for this you need to have a remote commissioning, which is also a key element. It needs to be very easy to move the sensor, to move the equipment, the IoT. And then it needs, of course, to be secured. And for this, we need to have encryption and rolling code by design. But you will tell me, what is the prerequisite for this? Next. And the prerequisite for this also is that it is battery-free. Why? Because the battery costs a lot of money in changing the sensor, especially in the building, in official building. It costs, we know that it costs 25 euros per sensor every year. And at the end, it's a lot of money. But also it costs a lot of CO2. It costs a lot of material. And it's just inconceivable to think that we can save and throw away every year trillions of batteries, which will be which is just a disaster, economical and environmental disaster. Just a feedback, 5 or 6 years ago, the most important thing was to bring services in buildings and in commercial buildings while adding sensors. And whatever the sensor is, we were just adding sensor, and most in the case with batteries, because it was easier. But today it's becoming a nightmare for facility manager, for instance, or asset manager, because they need to change every year millions of batteries sometimes, and it's just impossible. And it's a disaster for them. It costs a lot of money, and also it impacts drastically their carbon footprint, and they have to change and they have to find new solutions. And therefore, battery-free is unavoidable. Next, you will say then, but how is it possible? It is possible thanks EnOcean. EnOcean, which was the vision 20 years ago that there will be trillions of IoT in 2022, and therefore they invented wireless and batteryless sensor and the technology which can power this IoT without battery and without wire. With 4 technologies: kinetic energy, while just using the movement; with solar energy, while using the light and you have light everywhere, especially in office buildings, while using thermal energy. And this is very interesting for instance, for thermo heating valve. And of course, while using magnetic field energy. Then, what for? And that is the next slide. What for? It's for use cases. And it's very easy as soon as you have a digital infrastructure in every building. And I insist, a unique infrastructure, digital infrastructure, and IoT infrastructure. Then just adding some sensors, of course, batteryless and wireless, it can enable you to have access to straight to application, to services, and it brings value and comfort to the people. Just as an example, for a company like which is employing 100,000 employees, just adding a sensor on every desk, which is not so much, especially if the sensor is for life. Adding a sensor on every desk will enable you to monitor the spaces, the occupancy of the spaces, and it will enable a saving of 200 million per annum. 200 million per annum. But it's also bringing more comfort and thanks CO2 monitoring. And it's here we can evaluate that with 10 million per annum. And of course, it can enable to save energy while cooling or heating the spaces when people are there. And here, once again, it's 2 million per annum. So you see that there is no question of money. The return on investment is very easy, very rapid, and also no problem of carbon footprint because wireless and batteryless. Next. Here you have just example of sensors which can enable these use cases with room occupancy sensor, desk utilization with accelerometer, people counting. Here you can save up to 25 spaces and even more. You can also, of course, optimize the health and the cleaning while monitoring the air quality or the occupancy of the spaces, and of course energy saving. And each time it brings efficiency. Next. Of course, when we speak about sensors, we need to have this digital infrastructure. And today, things have changed. Things have changed because technology have changed, and it is very easy today to take benefit of existing digital infrastructure such Aruba or others, which are Wi-Fi 6 in digital infrastructure and which brings Wi-Fi and IoT. Just adding a sensor and you can benefit from application, science application like Jooxter that you will see there. Just adding one sensor, you have application and then a service which bring value to the building. Next. And therefore, an information which is very important. I told you 6 years ago, no problem of infrastructure, no problem of sensors. What was important was just to have a service with IoT. Now there are requirements and exigencies on CO2, carbon footprint, yes, and also energy consumption and economic. And we see that it's much more economical and environmental friendly to use LAN IoT network as with wireless and battery sensor as one. It's more sustainable, it consumes less energy, it has a much reduced CO2 footprint, it's scalable because it's used ultra-low power protocols and standards and interoperable, such as EnOcean, but also Bluetooth or Zigbee or what else. It is secured because the data is distributed and it's locally stored in edge computing. it is much economical because less equipment, a unique digital infrastructure and not a dedicated infrastructure for this IoT. And this is also very important. Very easy for installation, no maintenance, license free. Then it becomes a value for the real estate. It brings value of the building. And last but not least, it's independent of any operator. So that means when you deploy a network of IoT using EnOcean sensor, you are free from any kind of operator, and it's fully open. Thank you. Fabien, it's your turn.
Yes. So thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, EnOcean, for inviting me for this session. In fact, Emmanuel and myself, we know quite well for many years. And my background, I work in a large organization before creating Jooxter, an American company called Johnson Controls, where we were talking a lot about smart building in terms of energy management, while in fact the cost is more about human and real estate property. So I created Jooxter about 8 years ago with the idea of to improve the performance and the efficiency of buildings. We need to address first the occupancy. Occupancy is to get, I used to say, to get a smart building, the building needs to be occupied first. And this has been my drivers for many years since I created Jooxter, where we are all focusing on making the occupancy more efficient for not only the person managing the building, but for the employee itself to find the space they need at any time with a simple app, a solution that can be deployed very quickly. And I'm pleased to say today that as Emmanuel says, interoperability now it's a reality. We've done it, and I think this is the future. So in a nutshell, about Jooxter, we are a French company, 30 people today. We have a footprint of about 80 large accounts, and we deliver services across more than 21 countries now. And our clients are more large corporates that have many buildings. So in a nutshell, why the subject today was what makes workplace so critical, what makes occupancy so critical. So everybody knows with the COVID, the world has changed. So in the past, the occupancy was really a focus, a main concern of real estate, but now it's becoming a reality, a real concern for HR people. There are many people, and I was in the UK earlier this week, that says if the workplace is not good enough, if the people, if the employers is not allowing me to work where I want, remotely or on sites, I'm going to change the job. And getting them back to work is really a concern. So talent attraction and retention is key. The second thing, as it was highlighted on the example of Emmanuel, obviously, when you have on average employees doing remote work from 2 days to 3 days a week, there is a lot of space that's becoming available. Some of them to be rented out for more collaboration, but some others you can concentrate and reduce the numbers of buildings. And if you reduce the number of buildings, company will achieve an even more important goals today, which is all about ESG. So I don't know if we need to talk about corporate social responsibility or ESG, but it's all about reducing carbon footprint. Reducing carbon footprint by reducing the portfolio of buildings, by also at a certain time reducing dynamically the number of space open, but also reducing the commuting time of employees that have an improved work balance by being able to work both from their home or at work. So in terms of collaboration, why now, there is a big word called hybrid workplace. So talking about occupancy, what everyone really needs when they are on a day-to-day basis on top of their usual suite of collaboration tools. The first is to know where people are. Where is my colleague? If I go to the office next week, who will be there? And if I go, I want to sit close to Emmanuel because I've got a webinar to prepare. So understanding the work pattern of the different people will help to improve collaboration. The second aspect of the requirements that I always wanted to do in a solution like Jooxter is to click to find the space you need at any time. It can be from your computer, from your laptop, from your phone when you are on the fly or from home, but always have the possibility to find the space you need. It can be a meeting room, it can be a desk, it can be a phone booth, whatever type of space. The third one, obviously, everybody knows about all the concern during the crisis, is to guarantee safety and to guarantee the availability of space. Safety means at certain time being able, the manager of the building can close half of the building or can activate a contingency plan to close the building and ask the people to go on remote sites. But this is also on a day-to-day basis. If companies are really willing to reduce the amount of space and they go to what we call the flex desk policy, you need to guarantee to your employees that they will find the space when they go to work. That's important. And the third one, in terms of functionality, which is required, is the data. Getting the data and understand the occupancy. Most of HR people today in companies they don't know how people really work with after this long period being away from their office. So understanding the work pattern from one organization to an organization, from one team to the other. And most important is to identify the peak, occupancy peak, to prevent when there will be a lot of people or too many people in the office. And also, I would say efficient workplace. Since the beginning of Jooxter, it was all about if you book a room and there is no one inside, let's just remove that booking. So the data, occupancy data is important because we understand what's happening within the workspace, and then we can make some very intelligent scenario. So Jooxter, in fact, we are unique in our positioning because we cover three type of requirements. The first, to make the workplace efficient. First, you need to have what we call the resource management. So identify a meeting room, desk, flex desk, phone booth, and specify who is allowed to go where, what are the rules. Can we book it, or is just we can use it as we go? The second piece is occupancy analysis. Sensor is key because you need to understand how the space is used to get actual data. And the last one, it was the one I was explaining about hybrid work, is to know where people are, where people will be, because now we know that people are not going to the office from Monday to Friday. So as a Jooxter, we are unique in such a way that we have the capability to integrate with what we call the digital workplace world. So most of our clients, they have Office 365 or Exchange, so we are able to communicate with them. But also the smart building side, which is part of our DNA, is to be able to get the data. In the past, we work a lot with LoRa, with old building, when we didn't have the capability to have an infrastructure available to support or to get the occupancy data back to our service. But now things has changed because more and more interoperability is becoming available. So as we've got new buildings or refurbishment, I'm very pleased to see that as a service provider, it's no longer necessary for me to ask my client to put an additional network like the LoRa, which is quite expensive, but also to put additional sensors, because now sensors are available, and as Emmanuel said, EnOcean sensors are batteryless. So it means when you get them, you will not have maintenance. The second is Jooxter sensors can be interoperable with the infrastructure, the Wi-Fi infrastructure of the client. So I don't have to ask my client to put again another infrastructure dedicated to IoT, and then we can build a bridge. We have built a bridge between the Jooxter and the infrastructure. So this type of solution, we've just experiment in a live project where effectively our client was part of a global client where we operate hundreds of buildings with them. And in one of their buildings, they wanted to, as we do in a lot of space, to install sensors to monitor the usage of the space. First use case. Secondly, to eliminate the no-show of a meeting room. If in a meeting room, you book a room and there is no one inside, thanks to this sensor, we will push a notification to the person who has booked this room, asking if he still wants this room, because we didn't detect any movement. And if the person did not answer, we will remove that booking to make it available for others. And the third one is to get data on occupancy. So what we did, we implemented those the sensors from EnOcean in all the space, and thanks to an infrastructure provided by HP Aruba, we connected to EnOcean. So in a completely industrialized way, where we've got effectively the EnOcean sensors placed in a building that are connected to gateway and controllers, which are inside the building, and all the data is pushed to what we call the IoT connector of EnOcean, which is directly linked to Jooxter. So that we can explain if there are people interested about this architecture in more detail. We will give you feedback. I'm pleased to discuss that in more detail, to put you in relation with my team here. But what was interesting was really the return on investment, because first of all, interoperability is a key word. So it means we don't, as I said, we don't have to put new sensor. We use the infrastructure of the client, so the client is happy because he invested in HP Aruba network, and he can plug directly in this architecture the sensor, and that can be directly connected to Jooxter. As the second benefit, CO2 reduction is key because this architecture is slim. We have wireless sensors, not using batteryless as well, but also thanks to Jooxter, the client will be available to optimize occupancy. And so some of these clients are really considering even closing part of the building when the occupancy rate is lower than a certain amount. So this is becoming this type of scenario where we use the occupancy to get some intelligence to monitor the BMS system is increasing a lot. And we are also not only monitoring the BMS system, but also it can be the cleaning and the access control. The third big benefit, I would say, to the audience is about scalability, because such architecture can be deployed wherever in the world in a very fast way, as opposed to other architecture where it's rely a lot on local protocol, local expertise that has to be on site to deploy it. So I'm pleased to see that combination. That I think it's really a great example of what we can do as part of a ready-to-service solution. If you can take a few minutes to answer those calls, that would be very interesting for us, and we can feedback the information after the session.
Interesting.
So booking system. So we don't, but we want to. I guess I see from CBRE it was an interesting survey. They were saying 99% of, 66% of organizations have a booking system for meeting room, collab space, but only a third of them has a solution to monitor occupancy. So I'm not surprised. Yeah. You got another survey, another question?
Share the answers.
Yeah, so we've got 50% that says we don't want to be à partager les résultats.
Yes,
Sorry.
you can.
Okay, here is the results. So if you don't have, but you want to, I think please contact either myself or Emmanuel, because we have some good solution for you.
Very easy to deploy, and very, very easy to use too. And that's today it's a huge trend. Is of course we see that most of the companies are looking for reducing at least 30% of the space, but maybe more. And this is a key issue. And the idea then is, okay, optimize the space, but you need to have the right tool, which also bring the comfort and brings more efficiency to everybody. It must assist them in their work and not in the collaboration. And the last point is also that it needs to be now economical and sustainable, and this is also very important. And that's our answer. Thank you very much.
Is there any more questions from the audience? Yes, thanks. Great webinar from Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
Most CEO I speak to are saying highest real estate focus is sustainability and real estate cost reduction. Yeah, for sure. Yes, this is from what I've seen. We have also the HR leaders coming into play, and effectively the occupancy is really a concern of them, getting people back to work. So they need to provide some service like Jooxter to make them autonomous, where they want to go, choose where they will go, at what time, pushing some insights to the employees for the best moment to go, depending on the occupancy of the people on the venue, but also putting some intelligence on advising employees where is a place to meet. Either it's a virtual or physical, and it's physical whereabouts. So yes.
Yes, and reducing the CO2 footprint of the global is also we need to reduce the footprint of buildings, and reducing the footprint of buildings. The first point is to optimize the use of buildings. So today, buildings in general are used 30% of their time. So it's ridiculous at the digital era. It's ridiculous. So thanks solution like combining EnOcean and Jooxter, we can go to a ratio up to 50%, even 60%, which is much more, and that means reduction of this footprint of this carbon footprint of almost 40 to 50%. This is very, very important. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Emmanuel, for organizing this session, and I think this session will be available on replay, so do not hesitate to share. And thanks to Alexandra,
yes,
who are in the back, that has been organizing this. Thank you a lot. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Fabien.